Hello, welcome to the Cricket Nerds. Welcome to those people who have just subscribed. We are massively grateful to everyone for their support in the last video, which has gone absolutely crazy. We woke up not expecting the amount of likes and views and comments that we had. So thank you very much. Continue the support. Continue to tell your friends about us because we're going places and we like to talk about cricket. So if you like to listen to us talk about cricket, that's awesome. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the game that's just happened and then maybe some extra stuff. And the game that's just happened has been Sri Lanka versus Australia, which was a very good game until Stoinis started batting. So let's start with the Sri Lankan innings, which started things off. And it was a bit of a slow start for Sri Lanka. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was fast deck. It was a very, very fast deck. We know what Perth's like. We know it's a difficult track to play on if you got quick seamers, and Australia have got some of the best seamers, like bowling test match lengths if they want to. And it looked really difficult for the Sri Lankan batsmen to get away. I thought particularly Nisanka at the start of his innings looked really tied up. He was kind of swiping at them and not able to lay a bat on it at all. So credit has to go to the Australian bowlers there. But also, I thought Nisanka put in a shift because he was out there for 45 deliveries and he only got 40 runs, 2 fours, which I think both of them were edges. It was not an easy day for him. And if it wasn't for what was possibly just the dumbest run out, they were running really well, and then they just decided to run when it went straight to the man. If it wasn't for that, who knows? He could have put on a few more. But I thought story of the Sri Lankan batting was Charith Asalanka, because he really provided some impetus there. He looked really good, and he looked like he was playing on a different track, which I don't know if that's just because he's more adept to that fast bowling on a quick deck, where some of the other Sri Lankan players are happier playing on an absolute Bunsen in Gaul, where they can put away the slow spinning ball, but you don't really get the ball that's 90 miles an hour seemingly gathering pace as it hits the deck. I don't know what you guys thought of their batting.
I think it definitely was a hard deck, as we've said. There's nothing really to add on that. I think for me, I was actually really impressed with Asalanka. As you say, he made it look a little bit easier than the rest of the bowlers. I think Australia were a little bit weakened from a spin perspective because obviously Adam Zampa's got COVID, so he wasn't in the side and Ash Nagar had come in. Adam Zampa has been that spearhead of the spin attack for Australia for a lot of time now. But yeah, I mean that run out was stupid. I mean,
I've got to say, Ash Nagar did very well though.
Fantastically.
Four overs, only 25 runs conceded, and he took a wicket. It's a good day out for a spinner.
For sure. But I also think that there was a bit of ordinary fielding from Australia. There was some fantastic fielding from Australia, but some really poor. Like I think Pat Cummins dropped a sitter before he took the one off Mitchell Stark, and also there was a couple of like run out chances that just were miles away, and I think they could have had a couple more run outs. Like I think Glenn Maxwell had an attempt that got close. I have to say, shout out today to David Warner in the field. He was an absolute machine. I think he probably saved 10, 15 runs today, just from running around that boundary and being there. I'd say the one worrying thing for Sri Lanka at the minute in their batting is that Rajapaksa has disappeared. He's done like it was halfway through the IPL season. And, last year he came out swinging. He was really good. And Punjab fans were loving him. They were like, oh, yeah, he's the next Johnny Bairstow. Or I think that's what people were saying. I think that's what a certain podcaster who's currently on my right was saying. about Rajapaksa for Punjab, but he just doesn't seem to be in any form, and he's just giving his wicket away every single time. But if he just applies himself and stays in and plays a bit of a longer innings, I think that would complete Sri Lanka a bit.
I think he's playing a different role for Sri Lanka as he did with the Punjab Kings, because for Punjab Kings he was there until Johnny Bairstow was there, if I'm correct, and he kind of played near the top of the innings against the newer ball in the power play. And I think he needs that for Sri Lanka. Being in the middle order isn't doing him any favours, because I don't think he's that good against when the pacers are taking the pace off and when the spinners are bowling. He looks more fluent when it's pace on.
And also, you're absolutely right, because he hits up and over quite a lot. But when he hasn't got his timing exactly right and they've spread the field, he's going to get caught on the boundary more often than not. Yeah. Whereas you're right, when he's there in the power play, which he was in at 3 at the start of the IPL season for Punjab, it meant that he was able to hit up and over, and it would go for a lot of 4s, and then he could get his timing, and he'd be hitting everything for 6. So I think you're right by that. And Sri Lanka could potentially shuffle it around a little bit, but again, they've got quite a locked in top 3, I think. So it is difficult for them.
And they are the team that won the Asia Cup, which takes a lot. So they're still a good team.
They do, and I think they have got that locked in top 3. Well, they've got a pretty locked in top 6. I think we probably, for the Sri Lanka team, aren't going to see much of a change between Nissanka, Mendes, De Silva, and then the 3 in the middle order. But I just don't think. I think something that Sri Lanka are really missing at the minute. They've got star players. They've got Chamira, who's a star fast bowler. They've got Hasaranga, who's their talisman all-rounder, but they haven't got a star player batter. Like they haven't got a batter who you would say he's going to be in the top 5 batters in T20I. Like all of them in the top 6 average somewhere between 20 and 30 in T20, which isn't a bad thing, but it's, none of them are that top class, big hitter, world class type player who the other teams have. You're not going to look at them and say, oh, they're going to pull off a Kohli, for example, or they're going to hit it as hard as Livingston. And I think that's something that Sri Lanka are missing. But as you say, they won the Asia Cup, so something must have went into place there. So yeah, it's a really weird one to put our finger on as to why Sri Lanka are struggling against the bigger teams like Australia when they're walking over the less larger teams.
I think we do have to take into account the fact that, I do think we have to take into account the fact that the Asia Cup was played in Asia, where it's good for spin, and Sri Lanka have a very good spin attack. That's what they rely on, especially with the like of Hasaranga and Thikshana. And today, after seeing how well Ashton Agar bowled, and also Glenn Maxwell's over, which was pretty good, I thought maybe the spinners will come into it for Sri Lanka. And their spinners didn't really do all that well, especially Hasaranga, who went for 50 for his first time ever in a 2020 match or a 2020 international match. And it only took him 3 overs to get there. So yeah, not great from him.
Yeah, it probably worth going into that innings, because Australia, they had their backs against the wall. You saw it in the fielding. They were ferocious, getting angry with each other. It wasn't kind of the happy days Australia that we've been kind of getting more accustomed to seeing. They were getting angry with each other at any kind of misfields or chucking the ball in. If it's down at the ankles, it's like, what are you doing? So you can tell they're stressed, because they need to be. They've got a horrible net run rate, and they're still fighting back to get better. And it was a shaky start from Australia. I thought David Warner just really good from Thikshana, basically. And Thikshana, for me, was probably the pick of the bowlers. Him and what's his name, Lahiru Kumara, I've definitely butchered that name. But those two really impressed me because I think Shana, he bowls a carom ball really nicely, which it's just like it's a nice delivery. It's
We
a
love to
cool
see
delivery.
it.
Yeah. And yeah, he managed to get David Warner out pretty cheaply, which that was a huge wicket. Aaron Finch ends up 31 not out off 42.
My
Boys,
kind of innings, that. I
how
love that.
painful was that to watch?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Honestly, like I'm obviously diehard England fan. Aussies don't want them to win, but even I felt some real like sympathy for Aaron Finch because I've never seen somebody lack fluidity like that. Like he couldn't get out.
It was really hard to watch because like and you could tell he was very frustrated. Like he hit the ball and be like, ah, like you could hear him screaming in the stump mic, like that he'd not done it. But I think he just got tied up a little bit. I think it was such, and we'll come on to it because it's the only real big story, isn't it? But they were really saved by the fact that Stoinis came in and played a Chris Gale-esque innings. Like we were talking about Stoinis in the last podcast and saying how, you know, when you're under pressure and he doesn't show up, but then we do sometimes forget, don't we, that Stoinis can come out and do this. Zach, what do you think of that hitting?
Well, firstly, the man is huge. He's got the muscles to launch it, and he made Finch look bad. I think is the real story there because, well, for Finch, I felt a bit sorry for him because Mitchell Marsh hit a massive six. Glenn Maxwell seemed to play really fluent cameo, and then Marcus Stoinis getting 59 off 18. It's ridiculous. So I felt sorry for Finch but at the same time, you couldn't keep your eyes off Marcus Stoinis' hit. It was clean, it was powerful. Like he was hitting sixes, which would have been big sixes at the MCG. They were going like 80 plus meters, most of them. And I think he scored Australia's fastest ever 2020 50. Only took him about 16 balls. So yeah, it was clean, and he targeted his bowlers really well, which was everyone. He didn't let anyone settle.
It was really impressive. And I thought Hasaranga getting that much tap off his, it was mostly off Glenn Maxwell as well. That was a brilliant over. But yeah, like just the sheer mass of Stoinis. He took up my whole screen. And it was just a massive man scoring massive sixes, which is fun to see. The person, the bowler I want to talk about a little bit is Kamara, because he bowled some spicy deliveries to Glenn Maxwell. Because after Hasaranga got clarted to every inch of the ground, they said, right, no more spin for Maxi. We'll get the quick on. And he was bowling some real spice, right up the headgear. One hit him in the throat, one hit him on the glove. And we learned two things from that. One, Kamara has a brilliant short ball. And two, Glenn Maxwell is very vulnerable to short ball bowling, which all I'm looking forward to is England versus Australia. Mark Wood getting brought on when Glenn Maxwell's on. Like, he was struggling against the 88 mile an hour bowling. How's he going to do against 97? It's exciting to be an England fan and having that kind of pace. And as a Sri Lanka fan, people should be excited looking at Kamara and thinking that guy can bowl some aggressive bowling, which is very fun to watch. I thought it was the kind of, usually only get those kind of spells in test matches because of the kind of 2 above head height rule, but you didn't have that. It was good enough bowling that it wasn't out of order, and yeah, big fan, and gave a nice little sub story to the overall T20.
My last point on this game, before we move on, is Binura Fernando, who is a left arm fast bowler, has been doing really well for Sri Lanka. That could have been the slight difference when Stoinis came out to bat. As soon as Stoinis started hitting sixes, he's your go-to man. But he was off injured; he couldn't bowl, and that was a massive shame for Sri Lanka. And you could just slowly see as the innings went on, the Australia win percentage rate just increase over by over. So yeah, things to work on for Sri Lanka. Still things to work on for Australia, but there we go.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, Zach. That I think that was the point of difference there, because they were down a fast bowler, and we saw at Perth it was a bouncy pitch. Hasaranga couldn't find his lengths. I think pace was the answer to that. So much so that Shanaka brought himself on, who's not the quickest bowler in the world, is he?
No.
But I think that probably was the turning point, and it was why Australia seemed to cruise in. Let's move on. Let's talk about the rest of the cricket that's gone on yesterday. Wasn't particularly eventful. Bangladesh beat the Netherlands. Okay. And then
it was a bit of a non-story, wasn't it? It was a good performance. They bowled well, but other than that, I don't think I've seen a less interesting match in terms of it was just it happened. Cool. Well done, Bangladesh, and all the best, Netherlands.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there was one performance, I think, for the Netherlands, Colin Ackerman. We spoke about him in our build-up to the World Cup video.
Watch that video.
It's a great video. He was the only person that really put in a shift, 62. But as soon as he got out, it just seemed that the Netherlands didn't really have anything else to offer, I don't think. Now, there was some controversy with regards to play and all of that in the Battle of Southern Africa between South Africa and Zimbabwe. So I'm keen to hear everyone's thoughts on this, because it was interesting that they were playing in rain that was heavier than the rain that they couldn't play in earlier on in the day. It was a bit of a mess, wasn't it?
Ridiculous. Because if you look at Zimbabwe's bowling attack, their main frontline bowler is Blessing Muzarabani, who is over 2 meters tall. And for him to bowl in those conditions, it was just dangerous. He could have easily got injured. And I think all of Zimbabwe were thinking, yes, we understand that if we complain a lot, it might look bad because South Africa are obviously going to hammer us, especially with the way Quinton de Kock was single-handedly taking apart every single bowler. But I think at the same time, you kind of got to say something because the weather was terrible. And South Africa were really gracious in the no result. I thought they responded really well. So, yeah, credit to South Africa for just accepting the no result, accepting it was bad weather. Did you have any thoughts, James?
No, that is exactly right. I thought, well, props to South Africa. And I'm just glad that Zimbabwe didn't have too bad an injury, hopefully. And that's all good. Now,
Sikandar Raza summed it up perfectly when at one point he was caught on the stump mic saying, we may as well bowl underarm or we're not going to have 11 players for the next game, which seemed fair enough. James, do we have any cricketers' questions?
Absolutely, we do. So PD, who is so close to my heart, almost, but he's, if you put a cricket nerd's question, you can be as close to my heart as PD is.
Isn't that?
He said,
that's awesome.
it's a wholesome moment. He said, did you like Baba's choice of attack, using all the paces to evict a wicket after the 12th over, leaving out Nawaz?
I didn't like it because it left Nawaz to the end, and Nawaz should have bowled the middle overs, really. Because you don't want Nawaz bowling the last over when you need 16. When you need 16 to win, you want Haris Rauf or Shaheen Sharafridi bowling that over, because they'll bowl it better. They're the sort of bowlers you'd expect to contain that. So I didn't like Baba's choice of attack, but I'm sure India did because they won.
Yeah.
And
I think that's all that needs to be said, isn't it?
didn't PD give us a second one as well?
Absolutely, he did, and we'll move on to that now. Right, boys, assume yourself to be the captain of Pakistan during the last India versus Pakistan MCG match, if you can. After 10 overs, India is at 45 for 4. Hardik Pandya is at 7 off 11, and Virat Kohli is at 12 off 21. You have 2 spinners with 2 overs remaining, respectively, and 6 overs left for 3 pacers. I'd be interested to learn all 3 of your approaches. I think that's kind of the same question again, isn't it? Where realistically, we're all going to say, look, we're going to use the spinners, all the spinners allotted overs in the middle order, in the middle overs at some point. We're going to save at least the last 3 overs for the seamers. Am I wrong? I don't think I am.
No.
So
I mean, there is an argument to say death over spin sometimes does work, and it is great occasionally. But I think in this case, I don't know. I could see Babar's choice because he wanted to get Kohli out because he knew that he was the key person for that. But yeah, as standard, I'd always get my spinners done and then finish up with my paces at the end.
So, boys, we'll move on to predictions. Again, another subscriber, I think it's probably PD, who is very close to my heart, has requested that we do some predictions. So tomorrow, the games are UK time, 5 a.m. We've got England versus Ireland.
I'll be waking up for it.
Yeah, I shall maybe be. England versus Ireland. And then we've got Afghanistan versus New Zealand, which I'm very excited for, actually. So, boys, predictions for England versus Ireland.
England win.
England win.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite predictable, I think.
Watch England now lose.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. Paul Sterling century is going to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's just hope for the best. Afghanistan versus New Zealand. This is more interesting. New Zealand obviously coming off one of the best victories they've ever had. And probably the sweetest tasting one because it was against Australia. But Afghanistan with some incredible spinners. What's Melbourne like for spin?
That's where Shane Warne got. That's where he's from. So it's pretty good.
So,
the MCG.
Right. Rashid Khan Pfeiffer. I'm calling it here.
Wow.
Are you going with Afghanistan?
I don't think Afghanistan will win.
I
want them to win. Because I'm an England fan, so in terms of how it works the table. True. But also I think it'll be a lot tighter than we think. But obviously all of that depends on Afghanistan's batting. And New Zealand's bowling is so good. But who knows? A decent cameo from Mohamed Nabi and Ramanella Gurbaz, it could put Afghanistan right in the game. So we'll see. What are your predictions?
I'm going to go with New Zealand just because I think they are good players of spin. I think actually Kane Williamson, as much as we joke about him, is a very good player of spin. Devon Conway is in imperious form. And I just think when it comes to bowling, even though Afghanistan have a very dangerous bowling attack with their trio of spinners, I just think that New Zealand are the more dangerous team. I'd expect to see Bracewell back in the side to give that off-spin option against the plethora of right-handers, left-handers, sorry, in the Afghanistan lineup. So potentially we might see probably Santner drop out for Bracewell, and then Sodhi would still be there. That's what I expect to see. But yeah, I'm going to go with New Zealand because I just think that they're the more complete team. My reasoning for it?
I think there's less of a chance of Afghanistan winning than England have of losing. I think it's more likely that England will lose their match against Ireland just through being absolutely stupid. But I think there's more of a chance that New Zealand are going to beat Afghanistan. I don't see Afghanistan winning. I'd like to see some dutty wrists from Rashid Khan, absolutely smoking some sixes.
We all want to see that.
I think if New Zealand bat first, if they bat the same way as they did against Australia, then we could see 220 for one or something insane. So yeah, I just think New Zealand have a good team, and they're the sort of team that will play sensible and win against teams like Afghanistan. Happy to be proved wrong, but I don't see it happening.
Well, there we go. Thank you so much for all the support once again. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends about us. We're growing, and it's only because of you guys. Don't forget to like as well. It does help. Leave your Cricket Nerds questions down below, and you will have my heartfelt appreciation. And maybe we'll give you a shout out or something. I don't know. But yeah, leave your Cricket Nerds questions. We love the chat.
James's heartfelt appreciation is enough for anyone.
It's more than enough, actually. Yeah. Stay in your lane. You can follow our socials. It's all in that link tree in the description. So check it out. You can also listen to our podcasts on Anchor FM and Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, more. Other than that, we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
Goodbye.